How are we doing? We doing good? Good. I'm doing all right. Yesterday, I made the world's saltiest batch of salsa. So we'll see how my saliva glands work today. We'll see. This weekend, I made it back up for the second time since I've been here to the top of Hanging Rock. Yes, and it's there we go. Yeah. And it was cold. And one of the benefits of hiking in 30-degree weather is that you don't have to, there's no one else on the top of the mountain. So you got all the views you could ever want, you know. And I was going hiking, and I was putting on my shoes, and I put some old shoes on that I didn't care if they got dirty. They used to be my everyday shoes, so you've seen me preaching these shoes. And so I put them on, and I went up the mountain, and they're starting to get, all my shoes eventually get worn, like right here on my foot, you know what I mean? And so about 40 different times, I stepped on a rock that hit me right in this little soft spot on my shoe, right through the hole. And all the hikers in the room are going, Garrett, that's not how you choose your hiking shoes. And that's how I chose it. And I just thought, I was like, what is going on? How is it possible that every step seems to hit another rock right in the perfect spot? And the reason is because there's a lot of rocks up there. I had shoes that protected me from 98% of the rocks, and I would step on them over and over, and they were perfectly working. They worked perfectly. They were protected. It just happened when you step on 1,000 rocks, every once in a while, the one's going to hit you right in the hole. And here's the deal. I made plans for the rocks, but there were holes in my plan. I made plans for the rocks, but there were holes in my plan. And you can have the world's best shoes and still get a pebble in your shoe. But if you have shoes, you're getting whole rocks inside your shoe. You got bad shoes. You've missed something along the way. And so today we are completing our series called Nickels and Dimes, and it's our finance series. And the thrust of the series has been this. What shape do we want our finances to fit into? Like, what is that what we want to do? When we think about, okay, this is what I'm looking for, how do I want to, this is the amount of money I have, what do I want to do with the money? And what we've been saying is, when we think about the shape we want our money to fit into, it should be both God-honoring and wise. That's what we're aiming for. We don't want to be selfish. We don't want to just be me-focused, right-now focused, but how can we be both God-honoring and wise? And last week we discovered that the God-honoring way is the wise way. That in reality, if we will follow God's advice, we will also be following wise advice on finances. And what we suggested was this, what Christians have said for a long time, people in my position have said for a long time, is what's called the 10-10-80 plan. You give 10% away, you save 10%, you live off 80%, and you practice not consuming every last dollar on your moment right now every single month. You make a plan for that. Now, here's the deal. That's been kind of the thrust of this series. And that's kind of a philosophical idea, isn't it? The 10-10-80 plan. What do you want to do? What do we want it to look like? Now, you do need to figure that out. You do need to have the philosophical discussion with yourself. You do need to say, all right, Garrett, all right, David, all right, whoever, when I look in the mirror, what kind of person do I want to be? You need to figure that out. But that's just wishing. And wishing is great, by the way. I'm awesome at wishing. I wish for things all the time. I'm an excellent wisher. I can wish 1,000 times a minute. It's an amazing thing. And you do need to be able to wish in this life, because wishing is how we decide what we would like the future to look like. What kind of preferred world out there could we be aiming for? And you just start wishing for it. But you're never going to get what you want just by wishing. You have to also couple your wishing with execution. And I know this, and you know this in your life. Anytime you get a compliment, anytime someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, man, that was a great job," whatever you did, they're not complimenting you on your wishing. Has anybody ever been complimented on a wish before? No. We get complimented when we execute things, when we actually do something. So when someone says, "Garrett, oh wow, that's an amazing thing you did right there," it's because I've just executed something. And when those compliments start drying up, what does that tell me? I've kind of quit executing things. And the way we make wishes come true, the way we come up with this in our finances is by coming up with a plan for how we're going to make it happen. And in finances, the word we use for a plan called a budget. We all felt that, right? A budget. Oh my goodness, a budget. We all felt it, right? Now, there's some of you in the room, some of us, maybe like 9 people, who really like the idea of a budget. You know what I mean? Like, you just love it. You're like, let's get in a room by myself. I'm just going to crunch some numbers. You know what I mean? It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Your love language is spreadsheets. And, we call you guys nerds. The rest of us had a more human interaction and feeling towards the word budget, right? Because we're like, it's squeezing me, it's pushing me in, and I just don't like it. But if we want to be able to get to the preferred future that we are wishing for, we're hoping for, we would like to be aiming for, what we do need to learn is how to budget, how to figure out, okay, this is the amount of money we have. Where's it going to go? How do we want to make sure we're not just blowing through every paycheck? Because we have to learn how to budget. We can't just wish our way to financial success. And here's the deal. Dave Ramsey said this the other day, and I thought this was really fascinating. He says this: people always feel like a budget's kind of like squeezing you in, like it's trying to take away all your freedom and just ruin your day. But he goes, in reality, a budget is planned spending. You still get to spend the money. You still get to buy the things. You still get to do the stuff. You're just making a plan for how that's going to happen in a way that doesn't put you in a bind. And Megan's uncle Chris came and preached here a couple months ago, back in October, and he says this. He says, if you read the book of Proverbs, you'll find 4 financial principles that is found in that book that'll help you be a good steward of your money. And they go like this. Here's 1, keep track. 2, plan ahead. 3, save consistently. And 4, give habitually. He says, if you read the book of Proverbs, you will find God giving you this advice. Keep track of your money, plan ahead, save consistently, and give habitually. And so the first one is this: keep track. We need to keep track of our money. We actually need to have an understanding of where it is and where it's going. We've all had that, maybe not all of us, but I think too many of us, more than enough to want to admit it, have had that conversation where you're like, hey, what's the bank account look like? And you pull it up and you go, where did it all go? Where is it? That's not what was there last time I looked at it. And you go, and when you have that, one of you, the more spreadsheet person of you, goes, all right, I'm pulling the emergency brake. I'm tightening the reins, because you're going, we have to be able to keep track. Here's what we've been learning about stewardship this series, and we've borrowed this line from the Roman centurion that Jesus met about what it looks like to be a steward of money. We said what he says here is a great example of what it looks like to be a steward of your own money. He says this: I myself am a man under authority, and I have soldiers under me, meaning I also have authority. He says this: I tell this one, go, and he goes. And I tell that one, come, and he comes. And I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. And what we've been saying over and over and over again in this series is that you and I need to have authority over our money, so that when we say this amount of money, I say go, it goes. And this amount of money, I say save, it saves. And this amount of money, I say go do that, it goes and does that. Because we're in charge, and our money's not in charge of us, even though that's an active battle all the time. And here's what the book of Proverbs says. Chapter 13 says this: all who are prudent act with knowledge, but fools expose their folly. That when we are interacting with our money, we're supposed to be doing it from a position of knowledge. We should have data points. We should know what's coming up. We should know where we stand. And we should not just be like, oh, I hope it's going to come around. I hope we're going to have it. I hope it's going to be there. I hope I have enough. I remember in college, man, in college, you perfect the midnight run to Taco Bell. You know, it's like, hey guys, it's 11:48. You want to go? And your friends are like, let me check my bank account. And my friend said, I have $6. And we go, oh, and he goes, I can make it. And I go, okay, let's go. And so he came and bought, he afforded 1 burrito. And I was like, that is classic. We still love the guy today. And because that's college, but it's not operating from a place of knowledge. That's not operating from like what's really going on, what's really the plan. And too often, we look at our paychecks like our cousin who just won the lottery. Hey, come on, can we just, I want to buy myself a new car. Come on, can you give me a little more money? I want to take my lady out for a steak dinner. I want to do this. I want to buy that. And we view our money like it's some other person just won the lottery, like it's just going to forever be there. It's never going to run out. It doesn't have to be accounted for anything else. And yet, what we should be doing is what Proverbs says, is gathering little by little so they can grow. And too often, we just little by little send it out into the world, never to be seen again. And we go, how did that amount of money get turned into this amount of money in such a short amount of time? I've been there. I think we've all been there. And the reason is we didn't act from a position of knowledge. We didn't keep track. Wait a second, time out. Whatever happened to that whole Christian thing where we check our brains at the door? Whatever happened to that? That is not a Christian value. That's something atheists say is what we do. That's actually not what we do. God wants us to be smart people. He wants us to live in as wise and smart a way as possible so that we can keep track. Now, Megan, I've been shopping around for budgeting apps this month, and we're not going to go with this budgeting app, but I found this one rule. There's a budgeting app called You Need a Budget, YNAB, Y-N-A-B, YNAB, and they have these 4 rules. They're kind of like a movement. They're kind of like, they have a following like Dave Ramsey has a following. Like, people don't just use this app, they love this company type thing. It's kind of cool. And they have these 4 principles for finances, and one of them is this. It says you need to learn how to age your money. And they don't mean like be like the Vanderbilts where you have old money that came from before the colonial, like they're saying you should let your money be able to sit in your bank account for at least 30 days. And their principle is fascinating. I thought this was a brilliant idea. It says this. We're going through January right now, and you're going to have whatever amount of income you have come into your bank account. And so, for example, Megan's working part-time again, different shifts, different numbers of hours, different whatever. So she gets a different amount of money every month. And so once you figure out what you make in January, then you can set your budget for February. Because then you're actually budgeting real live dollars that you actually have in your hand. Most of the time, if we're budgeting week to week and paycheck to paycheck, what's happening is we're budgeting hypothetical dollars. I hope it comes in. I hope it's going to be there. I get this paycheck every month. Just wait till the 15th, and the 15th is going to come. It's going to be great. But you don't know what happens tomorrow. You can get fired. Things can happen. Things can come up. But what I like so much about this plan from YNAB is the moment you save up an entire month's worth of money so that you can budget for the next month, you're all of a sudden not living paycheck to paycheck. You're a month ahead. You have a buffer. You have a little bit of room between you and whatever unexpected thing comes about. And so when you talk about a budget, we're just talking about planning ahead and keeping track of our finances. And the next step is this: plan ahead. Here's what Proverbs says. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So you have a budget. You have your expenses, you know what they are. And you know which ones come up every year. Birthdays, Christmas, vacations, all these sorts of things. And here's the deal. What God's calling us to do is just plan ahead. Put a thought to that before those moments show up in our lives. Here's a fact from human psychology for you. They say there's a very simple way to make yourself happier. Do you know what it is? Just plan a night out with friends like 2 weeks ahead of time. Just put it on the calendar. And just that, they don't change the meal, don't change the cost, don't change the experience. It's just having it on the calendar makes it happier, makes people happier because they have something to look forward to. Now, I am a card-carrying, proud, healthy American millennial, and my entire life has been, hey, what are you doing right now? Let's get dinner. That's been my entire life, okay? Sometimes I call Walter and I go, hey, it's 1 o'clock. Have you had lunch? He's like, of course I've already had lunch. I go, okay, well, I thought I'd try. And so that's all I do. But they say if you just put the effort in planning ahead, you have something to look forward to. And it's a simple way to add something into your life to make you happier. Now, side note, there's people in the room you could probably put 2 weeks ahead of time a dinner out with them. You've never had a chance to, someone's got to take that first step, so you could, but that's okay. That's a different topic, but you could plan a dinner with somebody here today before you left. But whatever, who am I? I'm just a pastor. Now, apply that to your finances. Apply that to your finances. There are things you want to do, things you know you're going to want to do in 6 or 7 months. What if we started planning ahead now? Hey, here's something I want to spend some money on later. Here's some things I want to do later. Here's something. How can I make a plan now to where by the time that thing shows up, there's just this amount of money that has always been set aside for me to spend it on that thing. And you go, man, don't you love it when a plan comes together? Now, here's the deal. This is how old this system is that I'm about to talk about. When I was a kid, I used to have people come to me and say, kids, there used to be this thing called layaway. Okay? Did anyone ever buy anything on layaway? Was it a myth from the past? I don't know. I don't know if it's a prank all the old people are trying to say to me. It's so old. I never did. It was not a thing. But the adults in my life were always going, you don't just have to put it on credit. You could spend time buying it beforehand. And all my generation was like, that's a giant waste of time. Why don't we just buy a credit card and put it on the credit card? And that's so old in our culture that I'm now a preacher at a church, and I'm doing it because of hearsay. I heard there was a thing back in the day called layaway. But when we start to plan ahead, we can still do layaway even though no store in America does layaway because they don't care about it. They're just buy it now. But if we set aside things, we can buy the things we're wanting and not feel guilty about it. There was a time I bought a bicycle. I don't ride it very often. It's a nice, I loved my dad's bike like that, and I was like, I got to get myself one of those. And I just saved up, people gave me some money. I budgeted some. People gave me money for Christmas or birthday or whatever. I just put it aside. Until one day, I went away and I bought the bike that I'd been looking at for a year and a half or whatever, and I love it. It's a great bike. It's a wonderful bike. I wish I rode it more often, but I don't. And you know how many times Megan has been annoyed with me about buying that bike? 0 times. Do you know how many times she's looked at me for not riding the bike and go, I told you not to buy it? You know how many times? 0 times. Because the plan was always to buy the bike. The reason for saving was to buy it. She didn't have an opinion about it because she doesn't care. Now, if I walk up to the storefront and I see it, and I see the bike in there, and it's got the tassels in the basket. I'm just saying that's not what my bike has. But you know what I mean. I see the bike in the storefront, and I'm going, I've always wanted a bike. I think of the things I could do if I had that bike, and I get it, and then I walk home, and I go, Megan, I just did something. Think about how happy that experience would make her, or how many times I would hear the words, I told you so, if that's how I bought the bike. Because what did I say no to buy the bike? Our light bill? I don't know. Did we already cover the mortgage that month? I don't know. Did we already cover this and that? Did we already give to our church? I don't know. That was not part of the plan at all. And to just throw it in there like that puts us in a bind because we have certain expense. There's going to be rocks along the way. And we have to have plans, shoes to cover us on the rocks. And if we don't make plans, if we don't plan ahead, then we're going to be shocked by every rock we step on. This is why, by the way, every budgeting person on earth says you and I need to have some sort of miscellaneous fund, some sort of thing that says I'm planning ahead for unexpected expenses because those things will throw us for a loop. We have to, even things that we don't know what to think about, even things that we don't know how to budget for now, we should be thinking of a way that we can cover those when they pop up because car issues always come. A broken AC unit, a dryer that no longer works, things like that, they're always coming down the road. And when you don't have the money to cover it, it's a really uncomfortable purchasing day at the Home Depot. But when you have planned for the unexpected, You can go, I didn't want to spend that money today, but we got it. Go get yourself a brand new, actually, let's stick with the used dryer. Go, maybe we get one for free off Facebook. You know what I mean? But if you plan for it, it's not going to be the big rocks ending up in your shoes. It'll just be little pebbles. And you can operate with knowledge and move forward and be able to cover the things that come your way. And you don't have to be burdened by every little thing that shows up. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And so this is the purpose of a budget. The purpose of a budget is so that you and I can walk through the situations of life without having every little thing chop us down. And then it also leaves room for the last two principles of what a Christian steward looks like, what a Christian looks like with their money, which is to save consistently and give habitually. Once we figure out our budgets, once we figure out the nuts and bolts of how we want our money to look and operate and feel and do, we are able to put these two in the front. The big problem in America is not that we don't want to be generous. The big problem in America is not that we don't want to save for the future. The problem is that we put saving and giving in the back of our budgets. We put it in the back of our minds, the back of our thought process. So we go, here's all the things I'm going to want to have to cover this week: the mortgage, the car payment, the grocery list, the light bill, the utilities, and then all the things we're just going to buy spur of the moment. And then if anything's left over, we can then start allocating that for savings and giving. And when we make a plan, we can, and what happens is we don't ever have anything. We spend our entire life strapped. And what we need to do is, the Bible says, put those at the front. Make a plan for how you're going to give and how you're going to save, and then live off the rest. Because here's what it says: dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. And every man at some point needs to have some older man come around them and say, listen, here's the deal. If you can get in the discipline of saving money, even if it's a little bit of money, you can make it grow if you'll just keep doing it. My dad has a story where some man said that to him when he was younger. Everyone needs someone older just to come and just kind of shake us clear on this. You can save if you get in the practice of saving. And little by little, we can make it grow if we get into that discipline. And then we can also learn to give. A generous person will prosper, but whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. This is why I love this verse, by the way. Because oftentimes when we talk about giving, we do talk about how the fact that when we give to God, God gives back to us. And when we do choose to give, we choose to live in the blessing of God. And I believe that, and everyone believes that. But this verse shows us where like the natural and the supernatural kind of meet here, where they touch. It says this: a generous person will prosper, but whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Meaning, for those of us who go out of our way to be a friend to others, find others going out of their way to be friends of ours. For those of us who go out of our ways to be a blessing to others, find out that other people want to be a blessing to them. And it's sort of like this natural and supernatural meeting where it says, when we give, the world kind of takes note of it. Even though we don't do it for the attention of the world around us, we don't do it to be praised by people, we don't do it for the world to see, but they take note of it. And they see you as a leader, they see you as a person who cares, they see you as a person who serves his community, and they go, there's a person who's generous, there's a person who's kind. Look, and it just happens that when one person refreshes others, others are willing to refresh that person. And when we make a plan for it, we will do it far more than we would if we did not make a plan. And when you make a plan and it all comes together, you can look back on that and go, man, doesn't that just feel so much better? Doesn't it just feel so much better? And here's the deal. By the way, if you've never made a budget for yourself before. If you've never made a budget for yourself before, let us know. Like if you're going, Gary, I like what you're talking about, but I have no clue what you're talking about. I don't know how to even start with that. Let us know. We've got a lot of people in this church that really know how to put together a budget, who really can just sit with you and walk through it, and we can help you do that. Like, don't just be like, wow, that must work for everybody else. Like, let this church be a resource to you, and put together a budget, and then as you go throughout year to year, you adjust it. You go, well, it didn't really work that way, but I can adjust it a little bit here and keep moving. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, as we finish our series on money, there's nothing really unique about this series, was there? As we talk about money every year as a church, we're not really coming up with brand new ideas. We're not really trying to be the most avant-garde money church on the face of the earth. We just kind of remind ourselves what we already know, don't we? That as Christians, we know we want to save, and we know we want to be generous, and we know we want to make sure that we're not just throwing our money away. Like, we all know that every year in, year out, we all know that. And so here's the deal. The question that we have to ask is this. If that is something you want, which I'm not saying it is, it's something I want. If it's something you want, and last year didn't go to plan. Last year there was no plan. Last year you wanted the same thing, but you didn't do anything to make it happen. You wish it would be true, but you didn't execute. The question is, what are we going to do this year? What are we going to do this year? Because there's a very good chance that you and I could regret this year just like we regretted last year. What we need to do is come up with a plan. Daniel Pink, who wrote a book I really appreciated, said this in a video the other day. He says this, my own research on regret shows this. The worst way to deal with regret is to ignore it. The second worst way is to wallow in it. And the best way to deal with regret is to stare it in the eye and then use it as a tool for getting better. We don't talk about money to make people feel bad. We don't talk about money because all we care about is your money. We don't talk about money because it's our favorite subject. We talk about it because it is a massive section of our lives, and it can cause great regret or great comfort for having it figured out. And one thing I would ask is this. As you go about building your plan, as you go about figuring out what you're going to do, I would ask that would you please continue to consider Foothills a worthy investment of your money? Would you continue to consider us a reasonable and a worthwhile body of believers to invest in? Because God has been so good to our church. God has been so good to us. When I think back at the elders meetings that Darren and Steve and I had when we first got here, and every month that invoice came for where our church stood financially. And I think about the budget we're going to hand out next week for everybody to see. It makes me laugh that God has been so good. But I also believe that God is planning to continue to be good to us in the future. And if you believe that Foothills has been a blessing to you and to your family, I want to ask you to be a blessing to Foothills. And our church runs on all kinds of things. It runs on volunteers. It runs on giving. It runs on service. It runs on people's wisdom and people's know-how to help us figure out how to keep going in the future. And one of the things that every church has to deal with is it has to pay its light bill. It has to pay for the ministries going out into the community that we want to do. And so as you pray and as you think through this series and think through this year you're about to live, and you go, what do I want my money to look like at the end of this year? I just want to ask that you also consider Foothills when you're thinking about that. I love this church. I give to this church. Almost every ounce of my charity goes through this church. This church is it's my avenue. I'm betting on this church because I love this church. And I love you guys, and I pray that when we get to this December and we look back on the goals we set for ourselves and the hopes and dreams we had, that we will all look back and we'll say, you know what? I'm proud of the way I spent 2026 because I had a goal and I went out and made a plan and made it happen. This church is here for you. If you have any questions, anything you need at all, we are here to help you explore Christ, learn your next steps, but also the practical things, like if you need help with a budget, all that's available to you through this church. Please make use for it. Will you pray with us? Father, thank you for this day.